Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to welcome and introduce two distinguished scientists from Indian Space Research Organization. Dr. Bimal Kumar Bhattacharya is a senior scientist at Space Application Center, Ahmedabad. He is a leading expert in remote sensing and geospatial science with a special focus on Earth observation using microwave and optical sensors. His contributions have been pivotal in advancing our understanding of land surface processes and climate related phenomena. Dr. Ujwal Gupta is also with the ISRO and brings valuable expertise in satellite applications for natural resource monitoring and environmental analysis. His work focuses on leveraging space based data to support key national missions and sustainable development initiatives. We are truly honored to have both of them here with us today. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Bimal Kumar Bhattacharya and Dr. Ujwal Gupta. Thank you.
This is forward.
Yes.
This is backward. I think this is wrong.
Good morning. Am I audible clearly? First of all, I would like to thank Professor Nipun Bhattacharya for inviting me here to share my experience from Space Application Center, ISRO Ahmedabad. And with me, Ujwal Gupta, who is my junior colleague, he is also joining here and he will be sharing some of the slides at the last. So as you know, that topic which I have chosen is satellite sensing applications in agriculture and terrestrial ecosystem, and how artificial intelligence can help in this regard. So there are three key terms in the title itself: satellite remote sensing, agriculture terrestrial ecosystem, and AI. So that's why I have chosen my lecture to provide you some basics at least for agriculture and their perspectives under Indian scenario, of course, followed by some basics of satellite remote sensing and then AI based applications, and it will be followed by some live examples of the data, geospatial data. And if you see the photographs on the first slide, so to tell about our center, it has three big campuses. One main campus is on Satellite Road, that is the main campus, and there you can see that this is Earth Station, the old Earth Station, and another two campuses in Bhopal. Here we have the wing of Atmosphere and Oceanic Sciences Group, and we have some archival and portal here, this infrastructure here, and then this campus is a very new campus. There actually our new arm of ISRO, that is Department of Space, that is InSpace, where the office is located here. So I sit in this main campus, but we have very good coordination with the other two campuses. So with this background, now let us move to outline of this lecture. I'll give some fundamentals on agriculture and terrestrial ecosystem, some basics of satellite remote sensing and their products, and some applications, what we have done, what are the future scope, and some geospatial data, they are live examples. So this part will be taken by Ujwal and also partly for the future scope also. What are the challenges in Indian agriculture? You know that we have the farming system and we have progressive farmers, small and marginal farmers. So the proportion of small and marginal farmers is very high, that is more than 85%. And you know that India's GDP, at least 8 to 9%, it is dependent on agriculture. So with such large populations and more than 80% small and marginal farmers, we have the very small land holdings. Average land size, it is almost 1 hectare. And due to green revolution and usage of intensified seeds, hybrid seeds, and high amount of irrigation water or groundwater usage and the fertilizers, we have the declining now soil fertility. Then yield has reached plateau. There are a lot of contamination in the groundwater. So there are a host of problems which are coming in. But our land is limited. On the other hand, we have to produce food grain of 350 million tons by 2030. We have crossed 300 million tons, but we have to go to 350 million tons by 2030. India has large crop diversity. We have, you know, that monsoon season, which we call typically the Kharif season, and before and post monsoon season, where you don't get good rainfall, but some part of the southern India where it is a northeast monsoon rainfall dominates, there you get rainfall. So largely it is the Kharif and Rabi summer season for agriculture. And we have broadly 15 agroclimatic zones, which is subdivided into 127 agroclimatic zones, and we have 8 major, I think, okay, am I audible? There are, if you see the combinations of all these, so there are a lot of heterogeneity and diversity exists. On the other hand, the benefits of green revolution actually are saturating. In that case, if we would like to produce more for the livelihood and many other things, so what can be done? So digital interventions actually are very much needed for this. Why? To rationalize or to optimize the resources which are being used for agriculture. And there is a notion, there is a feeling among the farmers that if I provide more water, more fertilizer, there will be more yield. It is not so. Actually, after a certain threshold, it actually decreases. Sometimes it gets polluted. Sometimes it is toxic in nature. So we have to go for the digital interventions. What are the options for that? We have satellites. We have the sensors on satellite to get the data. We have now artificial intelligence. We can have the in situ based sensors, that Internet of Things. We have GIS, mobiles, many things. So to club all these things, finally, we need to arrive at the data-driven decision making. That means data-driven solutions. So this is called the digital agriculture. So where satellite remote sensing also provide data, but enormous data with a very large coverage and repetitive coverage. So there are advantages. Now, when world is moving towards agriculture 4, India is moving agriculture 2, because our green revolution takes place during 65-66, and then next revolution can come through the digital means. But in other part of the world, there are different stages of the revolution in agriculture. So that's why it is agriculture 4, and for us it is agriculture 2. Now, what are the potential geospatial applications for agriculture sector? When I talk about the satellite remote sensing, GIS, and many other ancillary data sets to be built in. You can see that we have several agro industries. They require information, timely information about the raw matter availability. Like, for example, if I talk about sugar industry, so they require that how much sugar can come to my mill for the processing, whether it is a surplus than the previous years or deficit. If surplus, so they can channelize it to nearby sugar industries, or if deficit, they can procure from other nearby industries. So they have certain mechanism, but those mechanisms we have studied in depth. That it is mostly manually driven. So we have to come out from that manual way of monitoring the sugar mill resources. Like that, there are different other industries like fiber industries, then for post-harvest, oil industries. I know recently there are examples that I think you have heard about Fortune brand, rice brand. They have also tied up with some geospatial company to provide the how much basmati rice they can get. That remote sensing should be able to tell. So that sort of applications, actually different agri-business entrepreneurs also, they are also looking at. So next part is the crop forecasting. It is required by our Ministry of Agriculture primarily. So they want to take the import-export decisions, then for fixing the minimum support price. I hope you must have heard that a lot of hue and cries happen every season for the minimum support price. So there also we have strong program with remote sensing from not only now, from 90s to this, and there are several developments in that, which is called the FASAL program, FASAL. Then we have the crop insurance program. It is under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and these actually leads to the claim settlement of the farmers, where different insurance companies are involved and state governments are involved. So there also we need to, they have come up with a program that is called ES-Tech. That is the utilization of the technology, primarily the space technology, for Gram Panchayat level yield estimation and their damage assessment. And these schemes are being rolled out, but not on the full scale the way we want, but gradually it is taking shape. Then agro advisory. So as I've told that farmers need to be rational to optimize their resources for the usage, so that their input cost can be saved as well as yield can be increased. So that primarily constitute the agro advisory system. What can be the proper time of irrigation, scheduling, then how much amount of water they need to provide, then pest and disease attack. So that also causes a lot of damage. So that sort of advisories are needed. We are gradually going towards that how we can use geospatial technology for providing those advisories. And the smart and precision agriculture, where both the combination of IoT based sensor network as well as the satellite remote sensing data, how we can maximize the resource use efficiency, and these are typically being adopted through farmer producers company, Krishi Vigyan Kendra, and many other banks are also looking forward such kind of applications. So I hope you have got fair idea of how the geospatial applications can be beneficial to agriculture sector. Now, just I will give a quick glance on the terrestrial ecosystem, which is just opposite to agriculture. Agriculture is human natural systems where they have most interaction with the climate and other components, that is the biotic and abiotic components, their interaction. So you must have heard maybe at your class 12 or 10th class, food chain, then energy chain and biogeochemical cycles. So basically we need to look at what are the different controls in the terrestrial ecosystem and what are the processes. Are we able to model those processes? How carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, all these cycles can be driven, whether can we model those, and if those models are existing, can we ingest some satellite data to make it more meaningful, or to reduce the uncertainties in the models itself. So there is a community land model. So those models actually provide this kind of outputs. However, these need to be properly calibrated and it needs to get proper representation, so satellite observations can play a very important role. So these are the different broad types of the terrestrial ecosystem, like we have the forest, shrubland, then grassland, then tundra and desert. So there are subtypes also. I am not going into detail into that. Forest plays very, very important role in that. So these are the just basics of that. If we see the forestry applications, primarily we concern about the forest fire. But that in our northern part, Uttarakhand and many other places, there are frequent devastating forest fires every year, almost during the dry period of March, April, this period. So monitoring of the forest fire, satellite has a very good examples. And then also the how forest fire and even nowadays agriculture fire, residue fire, Punjab, Haryana, how it is polluting Delhi and other places. So these need to be, and these are being monitored through satellite data. But how much actually carbon content and different other gases being emitted, those are actually the main part. As well as there is forest degradation, then all these things actually take place. So forest health monitoring and forest change, forest biodiversity, those are actually our main components to look into. And while doing that, we derive several biophysical products from satellite data, where a lot of algorithms are developed and inbuilt, and then it can be operationalized. So there are some associated things, how forest phenology, that is forest growth, changes with respect to climate. And then you know that there are coastal forests, we call it that mangroves, primarily how they are changing. So then alpine, which is at the very high altitude, and the tundra type of scenario, where it is sensitive to temperature, change in temperature. So those type of vegetation also we study. Now coming to the satellite remote, to understand the data, you have to first understand the electromagnetic. Important things are there. We have just to ask you, did you have any satellite remote sensing related lecture in your this ACM? So it will be easier for you to detect and I can go through quickly. So there are passive remote sensing and active remote sensing. So you know that already optical and the thermal infrared remote sensing are passive, and active remote sensing mainly radar and LIDAR. Okay, it operates in different electromagnetic bands. So if you see that visible band, it is basically the reflected. What data you are getting in the satellite, it is a reflected radiance data. Okay, and what you are getting in thermal infrared, that is after 10 micrometer, it is emitted radiance, which is naturally coming. Now here, two aspects are very, very important. While you are getting the reflected radiance, there are a lot of atmospheric intervention. The atmospheric signal mixed with that. And for thermal also, emission from atmosphere itself, those are also mixed up. So you need to separate out and get the surface signal. So this atmospheric correction is integral part of this before it is being used. Okay. Now, if we see the spectral behavior within 400 to 2500 nanometers, these are plotted at very finer spectral interval of 1 to 2 nanometer or 5 nanometer continuously. So these we call hyperspectral data. It is built on the spectroscopic concept. So if we take some discrete bands of from some of the part from this continuum, so you will get we call it that multispectral remote sensing or multispectral bands, because there you will have the relatively broad bands and discrete bands. But when it is continuous in nature and you are taking the very finer spectral interval, it is called the hyperspectral. So this is the typical signatures of the vegetation, where you can easily differentiate one vegetation type to another vegetation type. This is the typical spectra of the soil when there is no vegetation. So the spectra are totally different from where you get from the for the vegetation. So here you can see the sharp increase in the near infrared as compared to red region, but here you can get the continuously higher with respect to the wavelength. So there are different physics involved in this, why these are this happened like that. I am not going detail into that. Okay. So what information can be derived, fundamental information from remote sensing? First of all, the planimetric location, you know that coordinates x, y, and you can derive z dimension also, that is height, through the stereo imaging or the radar interferometry also. Then color, whatever spectral reflectance we get, even in the ocean or land, it is basically the color, but not limited to the RGB. Okay, so you can have multiple combinations, multispectral or hyperspectral. So ultimately you get the surface reflectance at different bands. If it is hyperspectral, it is hundreds of bands spreading from 400 to 2500 nanometer. If it is multispectral, then maybe limited up to some few bands of 20 or 15 within that 400 to 2500 nanometer. Then surface temperature and emissivity from thermal infrared and surface roughness, moisture content, both for canopy and the soil, you can get, and also vegetation biomass, you can use active and passive microwave remote sensing. Microwave has the advantage that bands are chosen in such a way that you can get the data even under cloudy conditions or foggy conditions also. But for optical and thermal infrared, you may not get those data from satellite. Some common terms we use in satellite remote sensing. I hope you must have heard polar and geostationary orbit, geostationary satellites. So can anybody tell what is the difference between these two? Yes. Yeah. Can you give examples? Can anybody give some examples of polar orbiting or geostationary satellite? You have heard about INSAT? What is that? Geostationary or polar orbiting satellite? You have never asked? No, I am talking about INSAT, our INSAT satellite, Indian National Satellite. INSAT you have heard, no? What does it provide? Weather information, cloud movement. You have seen a lot of images in the news bulletins also, coming in the televisions. So that is geostationary satellite, okay? And other satellites, you have heard about Landsat? You have heard about our Indian remote sensing satellite, IRS, radar imaging satellites. Those are actually polar orbiting satellites, okay? For geostationary satellites, we get the data maybe at 15 to 30 minutes interval. But spatial resolution actually are coarser, it is in the kilometer range. But polar orbiting satellites, it is not daily revisit. If you have the constellations or depending on the swath it is covering, you have the higher revisit period, but you require multiple of satellites, but you can get the meter, even sub-meter resolution of satellite data. Google Earth, what you are seeing, what it is? Maxar satellites, okay, that is providing sub-meter, but not every day it is available. So, in satellite remote sensing, we come across the spatial, temporal, spectral and radiometric resolutions. I think 3 of these I have already covered. Spatial, when we talk about the kilometer to meter, then temporal, whether it is daily or hourly or that coverage, and spectral also in the hyperspectral have coverage, whether you have the 5 nanometer interval or 100 nanometer discrete bands. But radiometric resolutions are very, very important. How you are discretizing the data, whether it is 12-bit, whether it is 10-bit data, whether 16-bit data, it depends on the applications. Those bits, radiometric resolutions are fixed, and it depends on also your ground station capacity to receive those data, because enormous data load will be there on the ground stations. So there are different other type of the data. First, the raw data, what you get, it is called the level 0 data, L0. But after that, there will be some pre-processing to make it more geo-rectified and radiometrically corrected, because there are a lot of noises involved even in the data, so those need to be removed. From L2, L1, you have to come to L2 data, those will be atmospherically corrected data. After L2, the products which you want, those are the really ready to use data. and those can be converted into different meaningful information products like level 3, level 4, depending on the advanced information. And another very important thing which comes with the satellite metadata, that is the gain and offset, okay, because ultimately what data you get, it is all in digital numbers, whatever, if it is L1, L2, L3, L4, whatever it is. So you have to convert it into actual data by putting the gain and offset, okay. This is the typical satellite image. It is nothing but the two-dimensional matrix for a single band. But if you stack one band atop another band, so it becomes the three-dimensional. So if it is multispectral data, there will be fewer such bands. But if it is hyperspectral data, it is the 3D data cube. Okay? So you get such type of digital numbers, and those need to be converted. And here, one very interesting thing, I was showing you that how red band and NIR band has contrast. Here you can see this is the vegetated area, these false color composite and natural color composites. These are two we generally use for visualization of the image. False color composite only we take when there is no blue band, that means RGB, B is missing. So we fill with some other bands like NIR. But when blue band is present, there we can call it the natural color composite, just like a camera photograph. Okay. So here, if you see, this is the vegetated region. Here in red and green and other region, you get darker tones. This less digital numbers, less reflected radiance. But in NIR, it is whitish in nature, higher digital numbers. I have showed that curve of contrast, no? Because of high mesobil tissue, total internal reflection will be high. It depends on the optical interaction. Features are there for each of the bands. So bands are selected accordingly depending on the application needs. Okay? Whether I would like to know the crop health in terms of chlorophyll content, in terms of nitrogen content, in terms of water content. So my sensor definitions will be according to that. If I want to only map the vegetation and no vegetation, for me red and NIR is sufficient, two bands are sufficient. So once we get the data, these are the typical cameras, sensor payloads we use. From that, when it is actually in orbit through launch, after that the data received in these ground stations, which I have shown in my first slide, that ground stations, Earth station. So from there, L0, L1 conversion will be there. Finally, you get this type of data product generation. So we have this strong signal processing team who actually are involved in coming up with this part of the processing. After that, the data comes in terms of L1 or maybe L2 data to our application scientists. So we convert into the L3 or L4, that thing, and may make sometimes products also. So ultimately, these will be the applications, and finally, it should reach to the end users, either policymakers or the industry managers or the people who are connected or provide advisories to the farmers. Okay. So nowadays we talk about this sort of data, that is the analysis ready data. Means you don't have to, for application, you don't have to do any pre-processing corrections. So this analysis ready data involves the geometric correction, calibration, radiometric correction, but this ready to use data should be the surface reflectance, temperature, or maybe sigma naught or gamma naught for synthetic aperture radar. Now another term is emerging, that not only the analysis ready data, we have to actually come up with the AI ready data. That means models are there, So my data should be in that format so that it can be immediately ingested to the AI models. So your time can be reduced. So these are the some of the examples of our Indian remote sensing satellites. We have the multi-tier, 3-tier imaging satellites that is in the optical region that is called AWIFS, Advanced Wide Field LIS4 camera, having different spatial resolution, and this spatial resolution and revisit, these have the tandem, because you have to make trade-off. If the high revisit is there, you need to compromise with respect to spatial resolution, or spatial resolution, if we want high resolution and high temporal revisit, maybe multiple satellites we can. So in that case, cost, launch, everything actually increase. So, but we require the high temporal revisit so that you can have the temporal monitoring of the crops, and you can see that how the color of the spectral reflectances are changing. So from one crop to another crop, you can very well distinguish between these two. And on the other hand, the radar imaging, this primarily works on the dielectrics and the roughness. These two things govern the radar backscatter. So there, actually you can use it under cloudy sky conditions, that is Kharif season. I have already told Kharif and Rabi. So there you can use very well this radar satellite data. So we have the RISAT series of this data. Now hyperspectral data, as I have told, that these are typical examples of the data cube. This is the vertical view, this is the horizontal view. These are actually derived from our airborne campaign with NASA, AVRCNG campaign. So we have a lot of publications you can see in the through Google. If you search it, a lot of publications over India. There we have very big. Then thermal imaging. This is a typical drone thermal imaging taken near Gandhinagar Mansa village, and here you can see that this darker portion are low temperature, and here this brighter. And here this darker one where crop is existing, maybe water is high also. So wherever cooling, local cooling takes place because of the crop water, so here a sharp contrast in the temperature you can get. This is another example with our thermal imaging data with the microsatellite over this mangroves area. You can see that from coast to off coast, how these are actually producing the variability. So now I will quickly go through the typical examples for crop agriculture. Crop type identification and mapping is very, very important. And for that, you need to classify the scene and come up with the which crops are existing. So we generally talk about two type of classification. And you know that unsupervised classification, you don't require in any additional ground truthing signatures to be overlaid on that. From the image itself, you can come up with the certain features, and with that you can use those signatures for the classification. But for supervised resolution, you require ground truth information to be overlaid on those images, and then you can actually classify. So there are different algorithms available, K-means, isodata clustering, and for supervised classification, the different algorithms are there, MLC, then decision rule based, then AIML based. Now we are moving towards AIML based crop classification and mapping. So some of the just basic I would like to give you with respect to supervised classification, because that seems it is more accurate, but that requires more resources also. Here you can see some of the rectangles which are captured from the ground through the mobile app. So there is such mobile app which is a Krishi Mapper. So you can go to the field and mark the polygons of the continuous fields, maybe smaller one. So such kind of different ground truths, polygons you can come up, and you can use that, put it on the satellite data, and you can generate different training signatures through the different bands or their band ratios or different indices. So finally you can have this sort of separability indicators, and through that you can differentiate the different type of the end members present in that particular scene. And in that also crop class and the subclasses will be there, from where you can derive the crop, where crop is growing. So this is one kind of this example of the classified image. And finally you have to derive the accuracy matrix in terms of distribution matrix. So producers accuracy, class accuracy, overall accuracy, kappa, all these things. Okay. So this is one of the examples. Now this is another example. If we get the time series data, how we can use this? So nowadays we have more satellites globally and also India. So at one stage there were very less amount of satellite data available, and that time also only optical data were available, no radar data. So that's why there was a concept of the sample segment, that I don't have to produce any crop map. I can take the samples signatures, and based on that I can estimate the area of the crop, and I can extrapolate based on the statistical method. So that is called sample segment approach. But since now more data, more time series, so we can go for the complete enumeration through the crop mapping each and every pixel, and then from that complete enumeration and the crop mapping we can estimate the crop area. So now we are moving towards the AI/ML based approach, and we have compared with the classical approaches like ISO data clustering, and then ML based approach, simple by random forest or so. We found that most of the cases random forest actually or ML based approaches are providing better classification and the better estimates. Before that, actually you have to do some segmentation of the image based on the object based image segmentation, because now it is the availability of the high resolution data are also more. Similar things also apply for the radar imaging satellite. We have the backscatter, and we can typically get this sort of profiles of the backscatter with respect to time, and these are the profiles for the optical remote sensing. We convert it into the vegetation index. So both the cases, these are the typical signatures which we need to transform for further classification or prediction. These are the examples for radar imaging satellites. We are working with Japanese Space Agency. Now, while doing the our work with machine learning, we find that you need to provide some optimized parameters, and that parameters you need to actually do trial and error, and sometimes you have to compare this model SVM versus random forest, or maybe cat boost, or some other different sort of host of ML models. Which model is to be selected? Whether we can produce the ensemble estimate from the different models. So what will be the choice of the model, choice of the parameters, and the combination of the models? So that need to be obtained in an automated mode. So we have developed the automated ensemble machine learning based approach for the crop mapping, that we call the this application is called SHOSHO, satellite based crop mapping system using automatic machine learning. and we found that this gives more than 90% accuracy, though your ground truth signatures, it has disadvantage also, because it depends on the ground truths, and this ground truth signature should be proper and should have the balanced with the target versus competing crops. But if ground truths are not good, then model may fail. So now we are actually looking forward that how we can use this host of machine learning models for automated crop mapping without least dependence or no dependence on the ground truth. So this is another example from the hyperspectral data. If you see, these are the airborne hyperspectral data where we have compared with Eversenji, which was a footprint of 4-meter pixel resolution, and LIS4 data, which was approximately 5-meter but multispectral. When we took almost similar dates, so we found that we have got very good kappa for hyperspectral and less kappa for LIS4 from a single date. We have used the deep neural network. Suppose there are less ground truth. So how you can augment the signature, because hyperspectral data classification, you require the more signatures, whether it is through ground truth or some other methods. So with this data, you can have at least some coarser scale end members. You can identify there are different algorithms available, and from those end members, you can actually augment the signature of the sparse ground truth, and then you can classify. And we find that one student from Nineveh University actually has worked on that. So we found that deal with hyperspectral data. So from the classification itself and from the data, from the advantages of the data, that three-dimensional data queue I have told. So you can have many crops to be identified and mapped, and maybe mixing in agriculture. Typical problems are there. There are mixing of plots. Means if you go to typical farm area, except Punjab, Haryana and some other places, you can get typical mixing. Means here some soybean plot, here rice, here wheat, some very mixed sort of scenarios you can get. So from satellite data or maybe from airborne UAV data, how you can solve this crop mixing, come up with a typical plot wise crop maps. So these data are very, very useful, where machine learning plays very, very important role. So then another part, apart from the crop mapping, we try to derive some variables from the satellite data. So there are certain models available. Typically, I would like to provide you one example, that is the leaf area index. Leaf area index is used for many modeling domain to know the crop yield, to know the how much carbon crop is fixing or forest is fixing. So we have the canopy radiative transfer model, which is the forward model, which simulates the reflectance. And similarly, we have the backscatter model also, which simulates the backscatter with certain system defining parameters. Now, while doing that, when you would like to retrieve leaf area index, which is sitting within the model, which is by varying those parameters, you can simulate reflectance. So when you can use the reflectance which is observed from satellite, you can retrieve back the leaf area index which is needed for you. So what we do, we run the forward model for the lakhs of scenarios, and it generates the synthetic database, which we call the lookup table. And that synthetic database lookup table, when you are inverting, there is a problem. Sometimes it happens that you have the n+1 variables to be retrieved or to be solved from the equations, but you have the n equations. So there, I think this AI based models can help a lot, and we have used also, but not to the fullest extent. I am just trying to give you the glimpses where the scope is existing for AI applications. So this is typically UAV data, drone imaging data, and this is a typically farm, and every farm plot you can say that we retrieve the leaf area index, which is having the centimeter resolution. But here, when we compare with the satellite data, it is the meters resolution, some 10 meter or so. That's why you get the mixed signatures. Okay, not the pure signatures. So that's why your errors are, our errors in retrieving this are relatively large. But largely, if you see, we could actually know the gradient or the pattern from the high to low from both the cases. Now the question is how to make data fusion possibility so that we can retain the advantage of UAV as well as the satellite sensing. So this is a also burning question. Now we have used AI for yield estimation. But for any yield estimation, you know that you should have the yield data first available from the previous years. Then you can build the model. So we have the district level yield of India sites, and we have taken several different products, satellite products, including thermal and optical remote sensing, and we have done some feature engineering here. First of all, this model tells about the principal component analysis. You can take those components which are very, very important, and then you use the convolution neural network. Using these two, we have arrived the prediction of yield before harvest, 2 months before harvest, 1 month before harvest, and just before harvest. So how the prediction accuracy actually changes. Okay, so this is very, very important for Government of India and Ministry of. No, suppose for Kharif season the harvest will take place in the month of middle of October, but they want the prediction or the forecast starting from the middle of September or maybe the first week of September. Okay, still we are not able to provide operationally, but before harvest we could achieve, but long lead forecast we could not achieve. That work is going on. Then we have used the optical and SAR, synthetic aperture radar combinations, but this it is not so easy to have the combinations because that data are totally different. Backscatter, here it is reflectance or indicators, indices, spectral indices. However, you have to do certain kind of normalization. So those normalized values actually are used to derive the sugarcane yield. There also actually you need crop cutting experiment data for yield, and those then you can build the models, and then we have got some success, and this paper has been published also. So this I skip. Yeah. So there is a World Bank project with Anand Agriculture University that they wanted to do the price forecasting. Okay, but price forecasting does not depend only on the geospatial data. It depends on the different price. What was the import-export prices previous years, and there are many factors. So, but definitely geospatial has certain implications. What they want, long-term crop area and production. What they told, that they are not very much government statistics. So they want the satellite-based estimates. So there also we have used the different combinations of the machine learning models, and then we have arrived at the models which are actually which can provide from the 1 month after the start of the season. And for cotton crop, we had the good success over Gujarat region, and you know that Gujarat is very famous for cotton and groundnut. So these type of studies we need to actually escalate, enhance in future, so that it can help in the providing agriculture market intelligence and then price forecasting. Then I have talked about only the ML based or simple purely AI based approaches. But nowadays you know that there is a concept of explainable AI, then interpretable AI, then physics infused ML modeling. So we have worked with IIT Madras for through ISRO's Space Technology Cell, and there they have used both the crop simulation model, which is purely physics based, physiology based model, and ML model. So this crop simulation model was run under various agroclimatic scenarios to get the yield, which always may not be the actual recorded yield. But actual recorded yield data always you may not get everywhere. But if your crop simulation model is calibrated to certain yield data, you can use that calibrated model for simulating for various scenarios. Again, those concepts of the synthetic data, with that data and again with the satellite data, means simulated yield and satellite data, you can use machine learning model. They have used the multi-stage clustered prediction. I am not very aware or very much efficient in dealing with that. Maybe Ujwal can explain if you have any query on that. But we have got good prediction accuracy when we have used the blending of these two. So these we have done for groundnut and soybean. Now there are other applications related to soil. You know that soil carbon is degrading. Whatever reasons I have shown initially. So we need to know the soil carbon for each and every land parcel, and with the current agriculture practices and the policies and the projects implemented, whether soil carbon is increasing or not. And there is a voluntary carbon market where soil carbon credit is very, very important. So there actually, if you see this African region, lot of data have been collected, and with the machine learning approach, fast 250-meter worldwide soil grid data are available. Okay. So if you see the next, different type of parameters, there is no remote sensing in this, only based on the in situ observed data, those people have shared, and based on that the machine learning models have been applied, and the soil grid at 250-meter resolution it is available. So that is a good application of the soil. And now just I will move little bit. So with remote sensing hyperspectral data, because it has enormous information, soil salinity is a very burning problem, especially in Gujarat, Rajasthan and this part. Okay. If you move towards Kutch runs, after a certain distance, you won't see any vegetation, because vegetation cannot grow there, though water is available. Through sea intrusion you can get water, but there is no vegetation. Why? Because it is so much saline, and apart from the sodicity is also there is vegetation cannot grow there. So whether those type of saline soils, can it be converted to fish growing purposes? So you need to know those particular salinity conditions for those aspects. So whether hyperspectral remote sensing can give you some clue on that. So we have tried, and we actually detected certain specific bands which has actually relevance with the spectroscopy, typical spectroscopic laboratory data. And after selecting those bands, we have come up with a new index which is totally based on AI models. And these we have applied over several parts of India and seen that it is giving good accuracy. These are the methods. I am not going detail into that. There are diverse committee of ML models, and then selection. We have done the selection of the best performing models, and finally we have the stacked ensemble of the. So there is a concept of best learners and the meta learners. I think hope you are all aware of this. So we have published this paper in photogrammetry and remote sensing also. Then soil carbon. We are now evolving with a deep carbon model that at cadastral level we have to make, or we have to make for landscape, or maybe very coarser resolution to know about the relate with the climate change and all these things. So we thought that we should have the multi-scale 3-dimensional soil carbon model. So that is called the deep carbon model, and this is actually outcome of PhD of our another junior scientist who has registered in IIT Kharagpur. So these we have demonstrated over Gujarat region, and this paper also has been revised and hopefully it will be accepted in European Journal of Soil Science. So you can see that we try to identify with the hyperspectral data that what is the absorption of the soil carbon, and if you enhance by magnifying the hyperspectral data, you can get the minor features. So that is the hyperspectral data. So there are two aspects. Either we can use hyperspectral data for soil mapping, or we can use this sort of multi-sensor fusion data for the soil mapping. So there is a concept of digital soil mapping. There this sort of concept is being used because this hyperspectral from satellite is operationally not available. But science is growing, so hopefully in future it can be useful. So just to give you examples related to the terrestrial ecosystems, there are a number of possibilities. We have the Phenomet network data, which actually collects the photographs from the different forest plantations, and it is spread over India. We have the 10 Phenomet towers, as well as it continuously actually record the meteorological data. As well as on top of that, you have the satellite data, which is freely accessible. So using these, whether you can derive phenology and different other bioclimatic parameters or not, that is also another challenges. Huge amount of data, how to use that, whether AI can help in that to come up with a meaningful outputs. So there actually some of the examples with the bioclimatic data are that how to detect the habitat suitability. So we have, our scientists have carried out the one example for Barasinga, and also the giant squirrel over Uttar Pradesh region, because these animals have lot of connection with the bioclimatic conditions. I hope you have heard about cheetah in Kuno. Recently some cheetahs were brought from Africa to be groomed there in Kuno, and 4 of them have died. I think 10 cheetahs have been, government of India has taken to Kuno National Park, and 4 have died. Why they have died? There are certain reasons. So this bioclimatic adaptation, sometimes actually they cannot adapt to what they were adapted to that African conditions. So that's why the habitat suitability for animals are very, very important. They are also for make some micro scale zoning, and this AI based prediction are very, very important. We have operational products, agrometeorological products, which can be useful for agriculture and terrestrial ecosystem. First, with the INSAT, we have the lot of data products are there from INSAT, but I am giving only the relevant one. These incident solar radiation, that is a solar energy, we can we have the operational products. Then land surface temperature, then reference evapotranspiration, then rainfall, and from ocean color monitor we have the normalized difference vegetation index, then surface soil moisture. So these products, as I have told you, level 3 and level 4, so these come under the level 3 and level 4 products. Any people who are working with the terrestrial ecosystem and agriculture, if you talk, so they are aware of this kind of products. But I want that you should be also familiar to this kind of products, so that this can be also feed into AI models for giving prediction. So these are products which are generated every day. But if we want to predict for next 7 days, this sort of thing. Suppose if I want to predict solar energy for next 7 days, I want to predict the reference evapotranspiration for next 7 days. So what are my options? So ML based or AI based modeling are good to explore. So this is one example for rooftop solar energy prediction. One MTech student actually has done this work with me. There she has used the Gaussian process regressor, and you know that from geostationary satellite we have the half an hourly interval incident solar irradiance. So from there you have to derive the cloudiness index, and that cloudiness index you need to predict. So suppose your prediction is good, and along with the weather prediction you can come to know that what will be the solar power forecasting. Okay, so these are the some of the examples. Again, this there is a need to know the energy under both clear and cloudy conditions. There also we can use, one of my PhD students has done on multi-layer perception modeling for all sky energy radiation computations. Yeah, now what is the future scope in terms of satellite data? We have international with NASA, ISRO synthetic aperture radar, which will be launched either in the last week of June or first week of July. So it will provide lot of data and products in L and S band frequency. So primarily soil moisture, then it will help in damage mapping and the floods, then for earthquake monitoring, landslides, etc., oil spills, and forest biomass. Okay, and in future we will have the thermal infrared mission with 11 bands with the Indian and French Space Agency. I am the science lead for this mission. These will provide daily land surface temperature as the evapotranspiration at 56 meter daily. So it will help in irrigation scheduling, management and all. However, since this is optical in nature, so cloud is a problem. On the other hand, we will have this NISR. So we are thinking of how to blend the soil moisture product from NISR and the ET product, which will be occurring, which will be available in clear sky. So how to blend these to get also the products under cloudy sky conditions also, so that there should be a seamless production of these products. So there actually lot of actually scope is there for to deal with the AI based models. And in future we are going for the lidar based sensing, though primarily we are starting with the UAV based leader to have the more understanding on the data, process and science, and then in future we may define some leader based sensor space. Though there were sensors globally available, but there are pros and cons that we have to see. So we have delivered to India this kind of for drought. This is the first of its kind. I think IIT Gandhinagar also has developed certain portals, but this our portal actually follows the drought manual of Government of India, and it provides a regular updates in an automated manner. So I think Ujwal will show live, and we are going for different type of monitoring system based on the geospatial platform, WebGIS platform for crop. So future is very bright. Government of India is moving towards Krishi Decision Support System, that is called the digital agriculture, and that first digital agriculture platform has been inaugurated in 2024, 16th August, close to the National Space Day. So this time, National Space Day, 23rd, a very big meeting on the National Space Meet. So we are all engaged for interacting with different ministries and taking their requirements. Actually, these sort of interactions actually give a lot of insights that how your research plan or applications you can build in. So now, what is the future scope for AI satellite remote sensing for agriculture and terrestrial ecosystem? Just I have listed down the how to do the automated crop mapping, and then how to do the data fusion using multi-sensor and the multi-scale, whether we can fuse UAV data, IoT data and satellite data. So then long lead crop forecast, how much in advance we can produce the crop forecast, then pest disease forecasting, then crop loss assessment. You know that there are different catastrophes, disasters. So after that, government wants to know what is the not only the damage area assessment, what is the biomass loss, what is the yield loss, whether it is taking place or not. So that is a very complex issue that we need to address. Agriculture market intelligence and price forecasting, and then how to do the gap filling under cloudy, how to make the predictive advisories for the farmers, not the real time, in advance, 7 days or 10 days in advance, and similarly for ecosystem health and functioning, then digital soil fertility mapping. So as I've told, the digital soil mapping, that has a lot of application of AI. So these are the some of the scopes. Now I hand over to Ujwal. He will elaborate that what are the different type of AI algorithms which can be connected to the different applications. Ujwal, please.
So thank you so much for presenting such a nice insight about the agriculture from a domain expert's perspective. I'm sure that some of you may take it as some of these problems as a startup challenge and may go into the directions. So let's bridge something that as you are here for the AI technique, as most of you are from computer science background, and how the agriculture how these problem, AI problem, you see in agriculture or ecosystem context. So there has to be some kind of bridging. So these slides are based on tries to solve to showcase you that how you can bridge the AI problem and how you see in context of agriculture and ecosystem. So first of all, the classification. AI algorithms, you know, are supervised learning algorithms are typically used for the classification purposes. Some of the examples were shown by Bimal sir, but how you see or how you can improve on that thing are given here. So basically the classification problem in AI is typically used to detect, to classify the image in some classes. But when you do it in agriculture, you can map it like which crop is growing in which area, or which pixel is wheat pixel, or which pixel is rice pixel. So these kind of crop classification maps you can generate based on the classification problem. Regression problem. So basically crop yield is one of the parameter that is typically used very much for the agriculture purposes. So here you want to know that what will be the total yield from this farm. First to identify, first you segment the farm, and then you map it to the yield variable, and then you can find out that how much yield you can get from that farm. So these kind of problem you can translate to the agriculture context. Object detection, detecting plant, trees, weed, pest, species in high resolution UAV or drone images. So in the right hand side you can see there are some algorithms, typically used algorithm that you can think of to start with. Maybe you can improve some of these methods, maybe you can enhance some accuracy, some performance matrices, you can show that your model is good upon all those performance matrices. That is totally depend on you, but to start with you can do these kind of machine learning algorithms. Segmentation is like mapping exact field boundaries, disease affected areas or canopy cover at pixel level. For segmentation you can use UNet, mask RCNN, FCNN, all these kind of things. I'm sure that you are aware of all these kind of models. For clustering, so basically clustering are typically used for those situations where we could not get the label data. Since we are planning in our future work that how we can generate crop map even without having without having crop labels for in season. We have the past season crops labels, but we do not want to go to collect the ground truth for the current season, because collecting the ground truth is a very expensive business, and it required sometimes lots of planning and resources. So such kind of problem that you can solve based on the clustering algorithm, and maybe you can use some other methods also. Time series forecasting. So one of the dimensions that you have seen here is that the spatial domain, when you take the picture from the satellite, it basically covers the spatial domain. But when you let's say stack multiple images of different times, in that case then you have added a new dimension, that is the time dimension. And these kind of time dimension information is very much useful, because every crop have a different growth season, and every crop cycle is different in terms of the time domain. So maybe you can use it for the classification purpose also. So for time series modeling you can use the sequence model like LSTM, GRU, recurrent neural networks, some statistical and machine learning methods also. For anomaly detection, because most of the time, as sir said, that there is a possibility of cloud contamination in the data set. So in that case, you can identify those pixels where the cloud contamination is there. You can identify using the anomaly detection, and you can fill the gap in the satellite data set. So this is another problem that typically faced in agriculture. And another examples are detecting crop stress, yield losses, or illegal deforestation based on unexpected spectral pattern. Like forest fire is another example. Usually you have a smooth growing pattern of the NDVI, but suddenly there is a forest fire. Let's say there is some disease in the crop, so automatically the growth cycle breaks. So you can identify those points and you can try to solve the problem. Reinforcement learning. So basically agriculture is basically a practice of farming. Okay, so every day every farmer thinks that he want to increase the crop yield with the optimal resource using. So reinforcement learning can be a help, where you can do, let's say, 2 or 3 cycle of farming. You observe that how the nutrient given by the farmer are affecting the crop, and based on that you can come up with the optimal practice of farming. Then dimensionality reduction. So basically hyperspectral, as I said, has lots of bands, lots of wavelength, and typically thousands of wavelengths. So you have heard about the curves of dimensionality. in machine learning. So typically we are also affected by that. So most of the time what happens that from all those wavelengths, we identify what are the important wavelengths explained by the physics, which can be used to solve the problem, to reduce the dimensionality. But we also want to encourage you that you can come up with some AI machine learning algorithm like PCA, TCNE, autoencoders, which you can use to reduce the dimensionality and solve the problem efficiently as well as effectively. So these are some of the categories. Data fusion and integration, as you know from this lecture, that we have multiple source of data, multiple satellites also, as well as in types of domain like optical, microwave, hyperspectral, then drone. So how can we fuse these data to come up with an optimal data set? For example, drone has a very good spatial resolution. So typically drone have less than 1 meter resolution, and best continuous multispectral that we can get currently is Sentinel-2, for an example. So how can you come up with a scheme so that we can get a multispectral bands of Sentinel as well as the spatial resolution of the drone image? So these kind of fusion can help you. Another example is the optical and SAR fusion, where optical data is affected by the cloud, but SAR gives you the, and SAR can be a tool to fill the gaps of the optical image. So you can come up with some algorithm that can fuse the SAR and optical data, and then finally you can increase the accuracy of the classification, for an example. So these kind of problem you can perceive from the glasses of an agriculturist. Okay. Now moving forward, we have some geoportals on ISRO from where you can get the data set. So typically these are Bhunidhi, Bhuvan, NDEM, developed by NRSC. Then from SEC we have two geoportals. One is MOSTEC, which is typically for the meteorological and oceanographic data sets, and VEDAS, which is visualization of Earth observation data and archival system. It started with the archival system, but now we are progressing with the analysis system. And ISIS, developed by the NRSC. So let's see if some of these geoportals from where you can get the data set and you can start developing your applications. So basically this is VEDAS, and here you can see this geoportal hosts a lot of applications, not limited to the vegetation or the agriculture, but also it has the Kashi DSS, new and renewable energy for energy sector people, and desertification, land degradation, air quality monitoring. For polar science we have a dedicated applications. We have state-wise specific portals also, like Ladakh, for Bihar, Bodhi we have. For the coastal people, we have coral bleaching alert. These kind of all applications are available on this VEDAS portal. So today I am going to show you what you can get from the vegetation and crop monitoring side. So crop monitoring is a very important factor because we want to see how crop is progressing each day. Not only farmer, we are also interested in that as a government agency. So here you can see that we have vegetation index data. So NDVI, just to give you a background, that NDVI is a vegetation index which is based on NIR and red wavelength, and it is a ratio, it is developed on the ratio of NIR and red bands. So basically, how the progress that the crop made in time can be captured with the NDVI. Also, it is also related with the crop health. So crop pest and disease kind of application, it is also one of the important parameters. So here you see the NDVI data of Sentinel-2, which is available at 10 meter resolution. And let's say that, so basically it is a temporal aggregated data, which means we have captured the maximum NDVI of those of 10 days interval, and which we are showing it here. So for example, the date is 25/5/2025, which means the data is from 21 to 31 May. So as you can see the status, that the green part of it is showing the vegetations. Okay, and as summer period is going on, you can see that in Rajasthan there is no crop available or there is no vegetation. So these kind of information you can get directly by seeing the whole image in a portal. Let's say if I click somewhere here in green area, so it is showing you temporal profile of NDVI series. So you can see here, if I, okay, so this is a temporal profile, which means, so in monsoon season, typically farmer start the agriculture crop. So in this case, it is going here due to the cloud contamination. Because of the cloud, we could not get the NDVI data, so NDVI is very less, and then it again increasing. So it is also a crop profile. So crop starts its life cycle from here. It continues to grow on. It reaches up to the maturity and then suddenly drop. Suddenly drop, which means it is harvesting now. It is in harvesting stage. So farmer has cut the crop. So in this kind of information you can get directly from here. Then again another crop is started to grow here and it reaches to the maturity, and again it reaches to harvesting stage. So this kind of information is applicable. So you can identify here that if farmer here in this pixel, how many crops he is growing here. So can anybody tell us that how many crops is he growing? 3, exactly. So this kind of information is you can retrieve from here. In fact, for the insurance purposes, let's say if any farmer claims that okay, in 2020-21 I grow, let's say I have grown some XYZ crop, but we can identify from here that whether he has grown something first of all, or whatever crop he is claiming, is he correct or not. So these kind of information directly we can get from these kind of data sets.
For sanctioning bank loan, actually bank needs to verify the bank that they are growing the crops or not. So these sort of profiles are very important.
Yes. Now moving forward with other applications. So related to crop, since this application is developed for the crop, so you can identify other important parameters such as soil moisture, rainfall, temperature, surface dryness index, PET, SAR back scatter, which is important for rice mapping, crop cutting experiment. In fact, the weather forecast is also available on this portal. So you can get these data set as a WMS layer and you can use in your application. Another portal is Bhunidhi portal. So Bhunidhi is typically for the downloading of the data. So here you can go to the Bhunidhi browse and order. I think I have already opened here. Yes. So this is the Bhunidhi home page of the Bhunidhi portal, from where you can make an ID. You can log in from that particular ID and you can download respective data. So to start with your application, first think
5 meters, up to 5 meters for any government academia, these data are fully available for download.
Yeah. So first you identify the problem, then you think of yourself that how you want to tackle that problem. Whether it is a time series application or whether you are going to your application require lots of data in terms of time series, whether a high accuracy in case of spatial resolution it is required. These kind of identify these kind of questions yourself and answer it, and based on it you can come up that which kind of satellite you want to use. So here a lot of satellites are available, like EO6, that is OCM data. Then we have VIARS, Landsat, then ResourceSat, AVIFS.
Just one information before using what Ujwal told. No, when you are identifying the problem, you would like to use satellite data for that. So you should know that which sort of data are proper for your studies. Okay, so then you can go for the sensor and the data.
Yes. So here you can download a variety of data set. You select the data range, the location for which you want to collect the data, and the sensor and satellite, and just download it by clicking over here. Okay. Now coming to the another geo portal, which is MOSDEC. Okay. So this is the geoportal dedicated for meteorological and oceanographic application. So meteorology, as you know, that how the climate is changing, how the rainfall is going on in this current season. So all these kind of information you can get. So sir,
Inset I was telling, no. So that you can see there's cloud. No, you just show the cloud. Simple. If you see the cloud, every half an hour it is changing. So you can see the cloud movement basically. But those are visual parts. But we are deriving some geophysical quantity from that. So that is the basis of the quantitative remote sensing. You have to clearly understand that now we are moving from a phase of qualitative remote sensing to quantitative remote sensing. Means we are deriving some quantitative variables from data itself. Okay, and further it can be used for AI modeling. Okay, so this is one example. It has enormous data, half an hour interval data and 15 minutes interval data. So enormous of data, and some applications you can show that like heavy rainfall event.
so for example, we want to see that which are the area which are affected by the heavy rainfall. So as you can see here, so I have gone through the heavy rainfall application, and here I can see based on the forecast. Basically, these are the forewarning kind of system where you can see that in the next 8 hour or in next 48 hour, which are the area which are going to be affected by the heavy rain. So as you can see here, so if I click something here, so you will get in the next 48 hour, this particular pixel will achieve will get 54.3 mm rainfall. So it will help the decision makers or the local authorities to relocate the persons if it is a very large in terms of magnitude. So such kind of steps can be taken by the local authorities. Now coming to the next application, which is MOSTEC Live. It allows you to see the InSight data products in every half an hour. So as you can see here in InSight, we have the imager sensor from where we can get these many of the applications, these many of the products basically. And these products are useful for the application scientists to understand the physical phenomena and to make the decisions. So let's say if I click over insolation product here, if I click on the add layer, so it is the home page. Once you click over here, it will ask you that which kind of data you want to add. So let's say if I want to add in a standard product of InSight.
These standard products, when you are talking about, it is the basically either brightness temperature or digital numbers in visible band, in optical bands. But when we are talking about geophysical bands, geophysical products, that means it will have this outgoing long wave radiation, rainfall, land surface temperature, sea surface temperature, then the incoming short wave radiation, that is insolation what. So those you can explore after going through that, and you can select the data, and data access can be provided through API or maybe through the FTP protocol. Okay.
So here you can see the image of land surface temperature of 10 AM. So right now it is I think 10:52. So just 50 minutes before image you can directly see from here.
Such a beautiful operational system. So I hope that some of you or many of you must visit our that second campus. What photo I have shown, na, that there these all our Mosdak and Vedas are sitting there. Okay, and our duties are to produce the algorithms and put into the operations with due validation. After validation, then it goes through the two committees like algorithm definition committee, which will approve the algorithm, as well as the TNE for the software which is being installed. So data comes through the antenna and it goes through data processing chain, that pre-processing I have told. Then it moves to the geophysical processing chain. It is fully automated, and from geophysical processing chain, products are generated and it directly move to the Mosdak and hosted on internet. So it is no person is sitting. Suppose I am provided the solar energy products, incident short wave. I am not sitting there every day I am doing. Okay, the algorithm is sitting and generating the products and it is being hosted there. So it is, and these chains actually, data processing, full data processing chains, these are being hosted for last, I think, 10-15 years.
Yes.
And means 15 years back this was thought of, and it is being improved day by day. Okay, and a lot of users are there for this.
Apart from that, you can do some kind of analysis like time series plotting, and let's say what is the value, current value of a particular location. These kind of pixel probing or time series analysis kind of analysis you can do online on this platform. So this is a brief introduction of all these geoportals, and maybe I will see you more about. I will see you in 12th of June afternoon, so we can discuss more about these things.
Okay, thank you very much for all of your patience, because the topic is new and there are a lot of elements inside that. And thanks also again to Professor Nipunji for giving us the opportunity. And if you have any questions, now open for discussion.
Hello, sir. Thank you for
Yeah.
your amazing talk. This was just a basic question. Like, how frequently can a satellite capture data on a specific field?
How frequently?
Can a satellite capture data for a specific field on a specific field?
Every day,
Okay.
ideally, and there are satellites existing now that every day you can capture the data for every field. Okay. But the things are that there are commercial angle of that, means somewhere you have to procure the data. If it is very high resolution daily data, somewhere it is freely available, means openly available, but there you may not get the everyday data.
So I have one more question. We know some open source tools like Google Earth Engine or something.
Yeah.
Is there any other tool which we can use, or like?
Yeah, actually, we need Indian Earth Engine, definitely, similar to that sort of thing, because when you are using Google Earth Engine, there are some restrictions from Indian side also to provide Indian satellite data to be part of that. There are some security, cyber security, many issues are there. So we need not go there, we need not fall into that. Only thing that the requirement is we need to have Indian Earth Engine. So presently, NRSC, this Bhunidhi, it is actually in the back end, it is coming up with a code lab, okay, where you can do some scripting, and back end you have the satellite data and you can generate your product and come up your solutions. So those things, but those things will take some time, because you know that cloud computation and then infrastructure behind that, it is not so easy, and it involves cost, and to whom to give the access, not to give the access. So these also a lot of decision making procedures are required. But definitely we are in that line.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a very naive doubt that maybe can we use the MOSDAQ platform and see the changes in cloud structure and wind patterns, and can I predict that how much rainfall is going to be this year, or and maybe I can tell the farmers very early that this much rainfall is going to come this season, and they can plan their cropping and maybe increase the yield accordingly.
Yeah, good question. So it is the advisories toward the farmers. We provide also the weather forecasting, but it is on experimental basis. Okay, IMD is authorized to provide the weather forecasting in terms of rainfall, temperature, and all. So they have the system of providing gridded products of suppose 12 kilometer, 25 kilometer like that, and they have a network of Gramin Kishi Mausam Seva, that is called the agro advisory system. So where the agromet field units are sitting in every district or state, where they provide these weather based advisories. Okay, from satellite point of view, we add to that, we provide the ground reality, because many times or maybe sometimes the weather prediction and forecast may also fail. Okay, you are predicting rainfall of this much, but rainfall may not happen, or that much may not happen. So you need to give simultaneously ground reality also, that how much soil moisture already is available. Okay, so that it can help in the decision making process. So this is already we are in action, but what we are trying to do is that suppose we have certain satellite based products, suppose satellite based rainfall, satellite based land surface temperature, evaporation. So from that time series, previous time series, whether we can provide some prediction for next 3 to 4 days from the satellite data itself. So there I think AI based techniques will be very much useful. Now your another part of the question is that whether it can be, MOSDAT can be part of the cloud, or definitely when this Indian Earth Engine or cloud sort of thing will come, it should be part. We also know, we feel that all these programs should be hosted in the cloud system like Google Earth Engine. Okay, thank you very much. Ujwal, you have anything to tell? Yeah.
My doubt was cleared.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to predict in the future, maybe the weather or something, maybe won't you need all of the data, even what is happening in America, what is happening somewhere else, because that affects us too.
Yeah,
So,
actually typical weather forecasting models, if you see, these are the numerical weather prediction models. Okay, so they start with the global guess. That means behind that, suppose I am using limited area model over India, using the WRF sort of models, they start with the global first guess, which is coming from the global simulation model. So those global factors already are taken care to initiate the models for the local scale. So suppose this WRF limited area model, you want to predict the weather of Ahmedabad, very micro scale. So you have to start the guess value from the limited area model and force the local scale model to predict the final scale. So that is the system already built in. Okay, so global factors are already considered.
one question I had was that red light, it scatters less. Okay, so if we take images of infrared or something, will we be able to get higher resolution? Like I think right now, we saw 10-meter resolution. Do we get something higher resolution?
You are talking about thermal infrared?
Yeah, the infrared, the NIR wavelengths. So maybe only infrared or something. But how much high resolution can we get?
Now you are talking about night time?
No, not night time, just any time.
Okay.
How much high resolution can we get? Right now we saw 10 meters.
See, ideally we have the satellite of part that is providing the sub-meter resolution of the 45 centimeter. Even some Korean satellites are there, they are providing the 25 centimeter of resolution. But your revisit period will be less. So now the technology trend is coming that microsat, nanosat, these sort of satellites will be built with such kind of high resolution imaging, but hundreds of such kind of satellites, like I think you know already Starlink is having the communication satellites of thousands, isn't it? And it will be operated over India also. So they have got the license and all. So similarly, for remote sensing imaging satellites also, there are already constellations available from Planet Lab and many, but those are commercial. But now Government of India is thinking with ISRO and other integral organizations. So to have such kind of micro nano satellites in future, I have told that National Space Meet, we will be discussing all these things for the futures. Okay.
I think you said that revisit period is like, less. So I think, are they using like more shutter time for that? That is why
More?
the shutter time, it is like, that is like they have to take the picture for a longer amount of time.
Yeah, dwelling time. We call it dwelling time. So it will not help in the form of dwelling time. It is the energy, how much it is taking, it depends on that shutter time. But your swath means how much in a single snapshot it is covering. So there is a concept of the FOV, okay, field of view, that determines what, that whether with a single pass it is covering 25 kilometers, 760 kilometers or 1000 kilometers. But when swath will be more, then your resolution, spatial resolution, that comes as a instantaneous field of view. So instantaneous field of view is a part of FOV. So instantaneous field of view comes from the each detector. Okay. So that detector and the camera alignment that determines IFOV, and FOV is the integral of those. So FOV determines your swath, whether it is 25 to 1000. So it depends on the need and the specifications.
Thank you.
There is a trade-off. There is a trade-off between spatial, spectral, temporal, and radiometric resolutions. So once you go through that, somewhere you have to, based on the application, you have to judge that which kind of resolution you want to increase. So this is the thing. So, but the overall concept is the amount of energy your sensor is receiving from the Earth.
This art engine, is it like open? Is it open source, this engine?
That's why that I have told about Google, this code lab, no, which is at a very preliminary stage of the Indian Earth engine, you can say, but that needs to be evolved. Actually, a lot of things have to be decided at the very higher levels. Okay, because it calls for a lot of infrastructure and the access to be given to whom. So all this depend on that.
Oh, hello, sir. Nice talk. So, is there any limitation for e-sport that we can
Amount of data.
that
Presently, some limitations are there from Bhunidhi, I think in the MOSDAQ also. How much GB or MB you can they can get at one time?
So currently there are several limitations, like you cannot download more than 1 month period of data. So these some kind of limitation. There are some limitation is based on the amount of data you download in a one order. Of course, you can order in multiple orders. You can get the data, but the thing is that to discourage the automated downloading scripts and all these kind of things, because of the security reasons also, we have limited. We have certain rule of thumb or certain rules which limits the data to download the user in case of the bulk download kind of queries.
But we have the API mechanism also, no?
Yes, but we have an API kind of mechanism for the registered or the verified users.
Actually, when he started with Vedas, actually on the upper panel, I think you must have noticed there is API. So you can download you can get those data through API.
Do we have any more questions? Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's thank the speakers for such a fabulous talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.